The European Women's Lobby is the largest umbrella organization of women's associations in the EU with more than 2,500 members, and Myria has a long background in gender equality, and she's also a very, very effective NGO, because since this meeting started, she told me she wanted 23 minutes. And indeed, I've granted you those 23 minutes. So the good NGOs get results very quickly. Myria, you have 23 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that I can keep your attention until lunch. I know it's not very easy to be the last speaker of the morning. I'd like to start, first of all, by thanking the Gender Institute for inviting me here today to speak on behalf of the European Women's Lobby. But I'd also like to thank Virginia, more personally. I know how hard these last few months have been with the heavy bureaucracy that is both very difficult and very necessary. And I really admire her determination to make this work, to make this institute fulfill its mandate and take the challenges. So I'd like to say that the AWL is here, of course, to support and work closely and in partnership. So thank you for that. I'd like to also remind you that this year marks the 35th anniversary of the EU's first Equal Treatment Directive. Since then, we have a lot of steps that have been taken, of course, in order to protect women from discrimination and to promote equality in a number of areas. And I say protect from discrimination and promote equality as two different things that are very linked and they're interrelated. So basically what I'm saying is that equality, gender equality, is a much more broader context, is a much more broader concept than anti-discrimination. And let me give you an example. Daniela already explained a lot about the gender pay gap. If we go back to the Treaty of Rome in 1957, it was French women, textile workers, who were fighting for their right to have equal pay to their male counterparts. And it was the French that insisted that was part of the Treaty of Rome, equal pay for equal work. And since then, we've come a long way, of course, in terms of legislation. And we have legislation for both indirect and direct discrimination in relation to the pay. Having said that, we've seen the statistics. We have countries like Italy that have a 4.4 difference in terms of gap in terms of gender pay, and then Estonia as high as 30.3%. So the question, I guess, is, Daniela said that the gender pay gap reasons are complex. I say that they're very simple. There's ingrained structural inequality between women and men, and this is a direct result. So, of course, we need to work on legislation, of course. We need to work on policies. We need to work on attitude changing. And we need to use different tools and methods to reach common objectives, what I hope are common objectives. And we need to use these tools and mechanisms, including gathering statistics, so that we can engage if we are to respect fundamental rights, the treaties, and at the end of the day, the democratic legitimacy of the EU. So I cannot argue enough for the Gender Institute to play a strong part in this process. So, of course, on behalf of AWL, we very much welcome the launch today. Also, when we talk about the gender pay gap, I'd like to remind you, as Daniela explained, the EU 2020 agenda. I won't go at length in that. I think you know probably more than I do about the proposals on the table. But the Council wants to see 75% of women in employment. What I want to see is 75% of women in employment, but in quality jobs, and without the gender pay gap. And for that, we cannot just have a statistic on 75%. We need coherent policies that will lead to a 75% equal jobs. So, I hope this works. Yes, I'm not going to list all the statistics. I can go on forever with statistics and how unequal our present structures are. But let me stand on the last bullet point. An estimated 1 in 5 women has been a victim of domestic violence, and there's a lot more if we are also to include all forms of male violence against women. There's hundreds of women throughout Europe that are killed every month as a result of male violence against women. Had this been any other issue there would have been huge investments on doing something about it. But because it is a private matter, we choose to do very little. So I'm very happy that the Spanish presidency has taken a really leadership role in trying to change that. And maybe you don't care because it's a private matter, but let me give you an estimate from the Council of Europe from 2003, I think, on the costs for the 47 member states of the Council of Europe in relation to violence against women. It costs up to 34 billion euro a year. So just think, had this been something else, whether we would care more. So what I'll do is I'll tell you a little bit, I was asked to talk a little bit about what we do and how we understand gender equality policy and legislation and how we work towards our goals, and then say a little bit about current challenges and opportunities and possibly the ways ahead. Just a line on who we are. We're a pretty huge organization, actually. We have 2,500 member organizations throughout all the national all the member states, and we also have 21 European-wide organizations ranging from business and professional women, women in the legal professions, Roma networks. It's a very diverse network. And with that, we also have, we are before the presidency. Since '97, we have established the European Women's Lobby Observatory on Violence Against Women that consists of experts throughout the member states. And since that time, we have been monitoring legislation, policies, and advocating for an EU strategy and a legal basis on violence against women. And what we do, of course, we monitor legislation, we do awareness raising, advocacy, mobilization, capacity building. We work a lot with the Parliament. I'll give you an example. Eva before was mentioning the last opinion of the Parliament on women in an aging society. We're very engaged in proposing amendments to the document and so on. So we monitor very current processes that are taking place at the European level. We work a lot with the European Commission, less so with the Council. Jakob, I think you should hear that. With the Council of Ministers, because they want to work less with people. So, but we try very hard. So what kind of frameworks do we have? Of course, we have the legislation and policies, and this is our basis, this is our core work. We have the roadmap, and I'll come back to that in a minute, since this is changing. We have the Advisory Committee on Gender Equality of the European Commission. And now we have the Gender Institute. And I think there's a lot of stakeholders throughout Europe that are counting a lot on the creation of this institute, not to put pressure or anything, but I think there's quite a lot to do together. So what do we work on? There's a number of policy areas. We work on many areas, but we concentrate on violence against women, on legislation, on decision-making, employment, of course, health, stereotypes, to go back to a speaker. We do a lot of work on, one of our colleagues asked the question, we do a lot of work on gender stereotypes, and immigration, integration, and asylum. So, how do we work? We build partnerships. That's all we do. This is all the basis of our work. And we do that with other NGOs, with our membership, of course, with external stakeholders. And of course, now we have a lot of expectation to work very closely with the Gender Institute. So let me give you an example. When I say we campaign at the international and the European level, we are the European coordinating body for the reform of UN gender equality architecture. Basically, at the UN level, you have what you have everywhere in life. There's an agency there and here dealing with women's issues, but there isn't a core group that can reach decisions at the UN level that deals with women, and to share your thoughts, a group with a budget. So we've been lobbying that for a long time, and I'm very happy that this is becoming a reality at the moment.